Wait a minute. Now it's saying, okay.
Yeah, my live thing is saying it.
Ballpark Nation presents. Welcome to Go Go Astros, your look at the two-time World Series champions from three guys who have been here since Art Howe had hair.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Go Go Astros. We have got a very special show for you today because we've finally gotten rid of Andy, Brian. We're going to bring somebody on with positivity and I don't know. Brian Arbor's with us as usual from New York. Brian, the Yankees lost. Didn't they lost last night on a dramatic walk-off. How's everyone doing there?
Checked
in?
Every Yankee loss is a catastrophe and a failure and quite enjoyable.
And replacing Andy Tom Chesson for today, my brother, Tim Jedgetz. We have nothing but backups named Tim on this show. Tim, how are you doing? I told you to prepare for disaster when we had you on the show Thursday, and all of a sudden the Astros have won 2 of 3.
Well, they have. That's great. They took 2 from the strangers, but let's not, we got a lot of work to do.
A lot of work. And as you could probably expect, we're really here to discuss Scotty Scheffler, the third time a Longhorn has won the Masters. Oh, that's not this kind of show. Never mind. I'm not discussing Longhorn baseball. I think they did beat U of H, but
I'll give my one Masters observation.
Yeah,
the Masters as an entity does nothing like modern PR would tell you to do it, and no one cares. Everyone loves it.
I'd like you to explain that some more. Pretend like I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I have no idea. Masters is golf.
Yeah, Masters golf. They don't sell out to TV. They don't sell out to TV. Their snack bar is pimento cheese sandwiches, which good Lord, I don't know why anyone would want to eat, but they have all these old fusty traditions that are, if you think about them for a moment, you probably don't want to think about them for a moment. Yet people love it. So sorry.
Yeah, that's
just throw this into Go Scotty. So.
Go Scotty show. I will not let my wife know what you think of pimento cheese sandwiches. She's got a weird obsession with it. I think they're disgusting, but I don't know. Tim, where do you come down on pimento cheese?
Not a fan.
Not a fan. We've already got comments about. Once again, yeah, Andy's commenting on the live stream. Y'all seem much happier than last week. Well, we are. Okay, so Tim, before we jump in, we'll have Brian go first. But one of the mantras that we have on this show is we don't look at the standings until May. However, during this disastrous start, I've been looking at the standings, and for everything that's happened, everything that's gone wrong, they sit 2.5 games back. And I feel like with the reinforcements coming, I feel that that's a positive. Brian, am I wrong or correct?
No, I mean, I wrote about this on my Substack this week, and a lot of bad play, particularly bad pitching, some bad luck. And I know the only bit of good luck they got, and I felt very guilty about looking at the standings on this because of our mantra, right? Because of you and Andy here. But, but they had not, the emotional hole they dug was massive.
Yes.
The standings hole they dug was modest. And again, sort of Tim said, a lot, miles to go and a lot they got to do. But, they that's the one bit of good luck they got is that no one had a 9-3 start in the division.
Right. And I would like to point out before Tim jumps in here that we've had people from England watch this show, and now Andy's watching from 35,000 feet. So that means we're both wide and high, I guess. Tim, overall, where do you feel like season as a macro, and then we'll dive into what needs work?
Yeah, so I like the mantra, because I agree with that too. Nothing really matters till May or even the All-Star break, and a lot of times, as long as you're somewhere in there.
But 9 million teams make the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. It's really hard not to. But you get swept in your opening weekend, and then you kind of have this really. I mean, the Royals. You get swept by the Royals, right? No, they win one. I don't remember.
No, they got swept.
Blurred. They got swept. That's right, by the Royals. And so you kind of like, okay, well, oh man, is the barn on fire? But then you do look at the standings and realize that, okay, we're cool. I mean, the panic button, it's April. The panic button's not even in sight. We're good. We're fine. So just a lot of work. And the great thing is that reinforcements are on the way. And that's awesome. JV had a start of hopefully his last rehab start on Saturday. And that's great.
Yeah, I would like to point out too that, and I'm a big fan of Astros Locker. Shout out to him, but he did do a breakdown of JV's last start, and apparently a lot of it was defensive plays that should have been made that were lead. Like I saw one of them where outfield was playing way too shallow, routine fly ball would have been caught had he not been. I mean, you're playing with AA defense is essentially what I'm going for. Brian, Tim in on something interesting. I feel like all of these feelings come back to the opening 4-game sweep. I think everybody expects the Yankees to be good. I mean, the Royals to be good this year. I think a lot of people have them as their upstart team. I think the Yankees, and I think we're still going to see this, are a little mid compared. I think they're in many ways this year's Rays. And remember how Andy was the only one on the planet saying they were going to finish 500. I think they finished just above 500. So but I do think it was that Yankee series is still hanging around our necks emotionally, at least.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's part of it because they didn't get, they have not won a 1-run game this season. And so 1-run games are mostly luck. And then the thing you think may apply to that is having a good bullpen.
I'd like to point out to Tim real quick something, Brian. Last year when we were winning 1-run games, I was all like, Brian, they're not luck. It's about steely-eyed determination. Now I'm all like, oh, that's luck. Totally luck if you lose them.
Yeah. Well, we're not losing 1-1 run games either. So,
but of course, the bigger issue, right, is that their best starting rotation is on the IL right now.
Yeah,
and
the whole rotation.
Yeah, they've got an entire rotation you'd be very comfortable going into a season with on the rotation. On the IL, and they got a really particularly poor set of games pitched that, got righted with Ronald Blanco, who's the team's MVP so far this season and our out-of-nowhere sensation, and Christian Javier, who needs to pitch like an ace right now, and he did yesterday. The obviously sort of concern turning forward is we now turn to Arrighetti, Brown, and JP France, who I guess they're definitely going to pitch better than they did last time, but that's been the big sort of substantive issue with this team is the starting pitching's got injured. As point out, I think Friday is the target for Verlander to return. And so things get a little better, and Fromper's going to throw. And so, I often talk about how I'm very familiar with how Lance McCullers talks about his injuries and how optimistic he is about when he returns, because I have so much practice doing that over the years. This is the first Fromber injury ever, so he says he's going to throw tomorrow. So, it sounds optimistic, but I can't judge that against, years of,
I would like to point out that Andy had the tweet of the day when I guess he had it was announced that McCullers threw from the slope. I just put that in the comments. Yeah. And he was like, not this shit again. Exactly.
Yeah.
Not this shit again. Tim, one of the big things that surprised me, like, okay, I'm going to give Arrighetti a pass, first start, and you didn't really even know you were making that start. I'm going to give that poor kid from the Longhorns who got 1 out, gave up 5 runs, and now has 135 ERA. Like, that kid did not know when he woke up that morning he was starting. Hunter Brown, though, has been the surprise because he was lights out in 2022 from the bullpen. He was lights out to start 2023. He didn't give up a home run in his career until I think June, and then he gave them all up. Like, which is it? I mean, do you turn on tonight's game with any sense of hope? And I will tell you that the last time Hunter Brown started, I was shooting with my students outside, and I walked in, and the kids inside said, "Do not look at the game." So, what are your thoughts on Hunter Brown?
Well, I have the last start. There's somebody I work with in my office that has a really bad back and doesn't walk a lot, right? So he walked to my office and showed me the score. So,
do we all tell our stories here? I usually during that period can sit in my office at work and would have the game on watching it, but I had an event going on, and so couldn't look at my phone. Get to the end of the event, walk into class, pull out my phone to see how it's gone, and it's a new phone, so I did not throw it across the hallway.
Yeah, there's a million text messages from me, and I'm going, why is no one responding? It's like our Kennedy moment, Tim. Where were you?
Yeah, where were you when Hunter Brown gave up 9 runs in the first? It's you want to walk in and start with optimism. Hopefully, learned, pitching coach, worked with them, and all these things. So as optimistic as you possibly can be after that start. So I guess it's kind of not saying anything, I guess, but I'm optimistic about it. I'm up tonight. Hopefully he got something out of his head or shook something off, or it could be worse, which I don't know if that's possible, but
I don't think it's worse.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be. There's no what's the term in Little League? We have the run rule.
Yeah,
that.
Rather not playing banana ball, so we can.
Yes.
Yeah. And Andy like to point out that I like how Andy's still on the show in many ways. He put the TV in his office back on CNBC, and that's rough.
Yeah, that's what business news. I mean, nothing could be. Wow.
Nothing. Yeah. The market's been up and down, I guess. I don't know. Jessica's in charge of all that stuff. Brian, I know that you are inside the numbers guy. Is there any bright spot to Hunter Brown that says, hey, there is the opportunity for us to see more of what we saw? Or are you like Andy's thinking of that maybe he needs another couple of starts back in AAA to get right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little more optimistic than Andy because he's a talented pitcher with a talented set of pitches, and his strikeout rate has been okay. It's never sort of collapsed, so he can get some swing and miss. Obviously, my biggest source of pessimism is the opponent. They're playing possibly the best hitting team in the majors in the Atlanta Braves, and I guess that's another sort of bit on the Astros is they played. The worst team they played is the Royals, who handled them. The schedule has been
very tough,
unfriendly to start the season, and that's been a contributing factor to them not playing well.
Yeah, the Astros have had, I think, the third hardest schedule so far. The rest of the season, they have the 27th easiest.
Mm-hmm.
That's great for the reinforcements. Just win them all. We're good.
No, yeah, I mean, it's like that. And I believe in Hunter Brown's skill set as well. I think part of his issue is I think he's so unconfident in himself right now that he's nibbling. He's not going after people, and then he's falling behind in counts or he's going full, and then you have to give him something to hit, and then he's getting whacked around. And the walks have bit our young pitchers a lot. JP France, we've been waiting for a year and a half for him to have the start he had last time, and he's finally had it. And I actually have more confidence in Hunter Brown going forward than I do JP France. Tim, where are you on the mustache? Should he shave it, or you're always like, yes, he should shave it. I don't know who he is.
Yes, or grow a beard. Pick a lane. Pick a lane. But I don't know. This is like, but so with who the Astros are and who the Astros have become in the last 10 years, and the idea is to give it to these young guys eventually. I don't know. I feel like maybe there's a lot of pressure on these young guys right now to have it when you have these battle tested veterans that are just on an IL. And so I don't know. JP Friend's got a lot going on, and I really hope his head's in the game and he's ready to go. But if he needs to shave the mustache, it's done. We're done with that. All these hipsters.
I want to say I'm pro mustache. I don't want to say I'm pro mustache for JP Friend because it helped him land a real world star. So really,
okay.
I can't tell him for anything else. It seems to be working for him on the bigger front.
And I'll speak for Andy when he says he and Jose Abreu should go to couples therapy for their confidence issues with their facial hair. I'm assuming. You know what though? Tim stumbled into an excellent point though, because in 2020 we had what felt like a very similar season, and they kept throwing these young guys out, but those young guys responded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's almost like at some point, is it just luck is up for the Astros when it comes to pulling guys up from nowhere and expecting them to dominate like they've done?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors in how this is different than 2020. Because I mean, 2020 you had a new skip, but it was not a new skipper, right? It was a veteran guy. So there's that. There's the old rules in college football. Whenever somebody took over the program, you give them a couple of years to kind of work it out. I don't think you need to do that with this team. I think that this team should be ready to go, but I think we're just looking rough because of these young guys that are having to hold the whole reins. Their backs are hurting. So
And it's a particularly rough set of games.
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
poorly and give up 4 runs over 5 innings, and you're still in the game with this offense. You can't give up 118 runs in 2/3 like we've seen twice. Though we actually were in one of those games. So, it's been a particularly rough. It's sort of a bad stretch. They're not getting breaks. They're also not pitching well. Again, bad break tonight is they get the Braves instead of an easier touch on the schedule. Yeah. Maybe easier to get right. And we can debate next week who should go down, but right now they're the next guy up is what they did with Blair Henley, right? Which is pick the next random dude who happens to be up on the who Sugarland's pitching that night.
Yeah, and I think he only got called up because he was the only one stretched out with enough rest. That was literally because he's been in the system since 2019. That guy was not a prospect. That guy is a career minor leaguer. I do think one of the benefits though that the Astros do have coming up this week against the Braves is that they are just as banged up on the pitching staff as well. The only starter that you and I have ever heard of is Max Fried, and he's also got a 7 ERA. So there is, I think.
Yes, my fantasy team knows that.
Yeah. So there is, I think that I am not blame. And also Michael Nash is watching the show, and he's exactly right. We have been saying this since beginning. If this was July, we would be more annoyed than stressed out. You have this at the beginning, it panics. And one of the things that it really annoyed me, guys, was when Ranger Fan was talking last year about how we backed into the division. No, we played the same number of games, won the same number, and we won the tiebreaker. It's not backing in. It's only backing in if you lose and then 19 other people do stuff in a combination that somehow gets you the division on a 4th tiebreaker, right? Like you won it on the head-to-head. Anyway, Arlington can suck it. I'll start with Brian on this one then. I don't think no one really thinks, and Andy agrees with you, Brian, on this being an emotional hole, not a standings one. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody realistically is going to look at this and say, oh my God, Joe Espada is a bad manager. I think everybody wanted Joe Espada, and the fact is maybe it's a different result because you did get 2 really good starts in a row that your bullpen isn't. Like, I think Brendan Bielek had done 150 pitches in 3 days or something stupid like that. But do we have to look at Dana Brown and say, how is it that you made no starting pitching moves, knowing that, and we're rolling the dice that all these guys were going to come back healthy, which we don't know that that's even going to happen.
Well, I think there are two components to that. So when is the fault with Dana Brown from picking players, or the fault with Jim Crane with having a budget?
Right.
And so that's not a massive fault, right, with Jim Crane, because he is over what I think his budget was intended going into the season when they got Hader. I thought they'd go over the luxury tax threshold. It's the highest payroll he's ever run. But I don't know, right, could they have added another starter? Maybe if Crane thought they were up against their budget, then Brown was limited as his choices.
And one of the things I was a big fan of getting Lorenzen, and he's on the IL and might not come off. So
Yeah, and get late guys. And then Blake Snell had a terrible start yesterday and a slow starting to the season. And again, that to me is a much more – there's some Dana Brown there, but that is more a Jim Crane. And, broadly I'm sympathetic to Jim Crane on this one. It's the highest budget he's ever run. Could he run a higher one? Sure, but it's not my money. The Dana Brown issue, I think, is trying to sort of pick and sort through bullpen options.
Uh-huh.
Which seems very much a scouting project. And in particular, the guy I think they had a lot of hopes on who hasn't really worked out so far is Dylan Coleman. And you sort of look at the back end of the bullpen. It's been, Seth Martinez gave up the bad pitch to Simeon yesterday, but has been sort of good overall. Maybe Taylor Scott is useful.
I mean, Taylor Scott's he had one bad outing.
Yeah.
But he's been really good. He's got under a 2 ERA. And again, I know it's small sample size, but to be fair, he's thrown more than a small sample size at this point.
Yeah. So they're sorting through a bunch of people. So that's more the Dana Brown issue. And again, it's early. So, trying to sort of, basically their strategy with the back end of the bullpen this year is sort through a bunch of minimum salary guys and find somebody. And well, they've done a lot of sorting so far. Very little finding, but again, it's early.
So, yeah, I think, and the other thing too to point out, Tim, is that a lot of these guys we're relying at as the starters were supposed to be the middle of the bullpen that got moved up because of the injuries.
Right, in the rotation. And our bullpen was supposed to be pretty locked into where it was, but I think that's a lot of the challenge. And I don't want to sound like I'm blaming managers or anything like that. I was just saying, having a new program, having a new look. But yeah, I think that's a lot of pressure to put on any of the young guys. I've been saying this whole time. That's a lot. I think it's something you got to do. You're in the bigs. You got to do it, right?
Yeah,
but there's still a lot of pressure that goes with that. And all we can do every start is hope that they finally are able to do it. They're able to take that pressure and really move forward with it.
What gives me confidence is the bullpen's going to be more rested today. You also have a day off coming finally, so you can manage that way. Yeah. And there's a couple of losses that were just weird. I don't expect Abreu, Presley, or Hader to blow a lot more games going forward. And you know what? If those guys suck, then your team's going to be bad because that's your whole strength is to get to those three guys. And if they don't perform, that's not a Dana Brown issue, and it's not a Joe Espada issue, and it's not a Brian Arbor issue. It's their issue. Okay. So yeah, guys, you need to talk me off the high that I've gotten onto. I have been a pretty big naysayer on bringing Joey Loperfido up because he's got great numbers, but he's in the PCL. The PCL is notoriously a hitter-friendly league. I was in the ballpark this weekend to watch him hit 4 massive home runs, including one that I don't think I've ever seen a ball get out of a park faster than the one he actually hit Saturday night. He's leading, I think, all of baseball in home runs, not just the minor leagues. And like we're starting to get a little bit of production. Hopefully Abreu's turning it around. I still don't believe that you can give up on him. Singleton, we all know, I think he's an empty shirt in my opinion. Brian, you first. Am I getting over my skis on also wanting Joey Loperfido to come up?
No, I mean, because the alternative, right, are the two players you mentioned who have been, particularly Abreu has been among the worst players in the majors, and he looks to be a shell of himself. And so, the alternative is, can we sort of run some sort of platoon with Loperfido at first and Abreu, and Loperfido does on-the-job training at first base, and, all right, we don't Ron Washington to teach him, but you can teach,
It's very hard.
Baseball players,
it's
many baseball players have been taught to play first base, including he's played at some in the minors. I think that's fine. They sort of need to make the judgment on when Loperfido's ready, but the bar for him to get over is really low because of the terrible production at first base they've gotten from Abreu, particularly. Singleton, I think, has been okay. But, again, it's the biggest hole in the order. They put Abreu in the ace spot, which, by the way, on Joe Espada, hey, this guy's not performing. I'm going to keep pushing him down. I'm going to keep pushing him down the lineup because it's hurting the team. Is something different than we've seen before.
Totally.
But the next spot you can go, I don't think I'm going to put a ninth in front of Altuve and Yordan. So the next spot is on the bench.
Tim, one of the things I'd like you to add with Loperfido is also I'm just looking at his numbers right now because he is obviously smashing home runs, but he's also hitting for a high average. He's hitting 333. I know he has a strikeout problem, but part of me also wonders, Tim, if you're hitting 333 and you have 10 bombs, what else can you do in AAA other than go backwards at this point?
Yeah, and I think that there's nothing problem with a little bit of young blood coming up there and reinvigorating these sticks. I'm totally cool with that. I don't think you're overselling anything about it. I think when you look at alternatives, I think that, you don't have to give him a permanent stay. You can see what he does. Let's see what he does.
Well, and also I think prepare the fan base for. I don't think he's going to come up and smash 10 home runs in the same number of games and hit 333. You might see a Kyle Tucker type of start, which I remember people wanting to run that guy on a rail because there is a learning curve, but it does seem to me by June, July, if you give that learning curve early, might start hitting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tim?
The biggest issue with Loperfido right now is he's striking out a lot. His walk rate's high, so he's someone who takes a lot of pitches, try to find his pitch. But unlike particularly John Singleton, who has a similar approach, he's doing good things with the pitches if he gets to.
Yeah, and what I saw Tim too was a lot of his strikeouts are looking, so he's not chasing bad strikes. It looks like he might not fully understand the minor league strike zone, which, guys, it's all you think it's bad up here. It's all over the place down there.
Well, it's the automatic ball strike system down there and in AAA, and that seems to have it. That seems to be a beast of its own.
Yeah. Tim, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's just a little bit of getting up there and trying to see what you can do. I mean, the alternative is what it is. A little bit of invigoration is always good. I think. I think that yeah, I mean, give it a shot. We'll see what happens. You can't do much more in AAA, right? So if he comes in and strikes, when Bregman came up and went 0 for 31, right? And that's when he first came up from AAA, right? So or even AA. He wasn't even in AAA, was he?
Yeah. No, he might have had a week or something.
Yeah, a week.
Loperfido's played a lot of outfield and played second base, so you can do more than playing at first base. Though it may make more sense just to leave him at first base and let him learn the position defensively.
Yeah, and at least he's going to be more athletic defensively than the other two alternatives that will make up for some of his lack of experience. His biggest thing is going to be knowing the position. When do you try to field the ground ball versus going back to first? All of that in between stuff, but I think that gets figured out pretty quickly. To end on a bright note, Jose Altuve can't miss, and it's weird to me because he might have the best. Bregman, Andy would like to point out that Bregman played in Fresno for AAA. I don't think it was very long though, Andy. You can effort.
Yeah, I mean,
if you want, this might be the best start that Altuve's had to a season, maybe in his whole career. Tim, thoughts?
It's been a long time. I mean, because but in the last few years he's been battling the knee stuff and the injury. But yeah, this might be. I don't know about ever because. I mean, it seems like a long time ago that he got started. Is he 800 years old now?
I mean,
but
all of a sudden he's hit 10 years and he's doing his thing.
Yeah, but he's looking good. Let's go. All right.
Brian,
I enjoyed the aesthetics of his first inning home run yesterday because everyone knew he hit it far enough, but he just stands there at the plate kind of with the whole sort of trying to lean the ball to stay fair. And then allowed me to tweet, while Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday, the Chick-fil-A foul pole is open for business.
It wasn't as dramatic as this or that, but yeah.
It was not Game 6 of the World Series. He shouldn't be doing that, but it was, And
what's kind of crazy is McTaggart had tweeted something out, and I'm actually going to find his tweet real quick just because I want to get the stat exactly right. But there's this ongoing, admittedly stupid debate over where does Biggio and Bagwell fall in the pantheon of great Astros now, because we've got a little bit of recency bias on some of this. I think Jose Altuve obviously belongs in the conversation, but yesterday Altuve homered on an 0-2 pitch and a 3-0 pitch. Craig Biggio had 3,060 hits, and only one of them came on a 3-0 count. But that just kind of shows you just how, when I watch Astros fans complain about him chasing a ball over his head, have you not watched him ever? Because that's where he hits his dramatic home runs or over his. First of all, he's short. Everything is over his head. Tim?
That is his thing. Yeah, that's his thing. That's what he does.
Brian,
and it's every time it's a strike, it's a. Why'd you swing at that? What are you swinging at? But yeah, and he's that homer. He's like, oh, shut up.
The homer for Chapman was really a good pitch by Chapman, frankly. It was kind of up here. So,
yeah.
Brian?
Well, I just said this is how long, just sort of on Tim's point here, this is how long Jose Altuve has been with the Astros. His initial manager was Brad Mills.
Wow.
And the reason I remember that is that when they call him up, he comes into Mills's office, and Mills says, "Hey, here's where you're in the lineup today, and here's this, that, and the other." And then Altuve leaves the office, and Mills takes out his phone and texts Terry Francona, the guy he's worked, basically all his career has been his bench coach, except for flailing as the Astros manager. And he texts Francona, Hey, go tell Pedroia he's no longer the shortest guy in the majors.
It's also super weird to watch his throwbacks because he's in the awful brick and black for the beginning of his career, and it's just such a.
We should ban all memories of that time, even if it includes Jose Altuve.
I kind of agree, except for the little stint in 05, I guess. And 04 too. The funny part about 04, that was when Jeff Kent had the walk off, and the Astros train guy was telling me when he was on the show that was the scariest he's ever been in the train. Scarier than Game 5 of the World Series in 17. He said the place went from nothing to so loud that the train tracks were swaying, and he was up in the thing going, "I'm literally going to die."
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was the scariest he's ever been because people just went nuts. Jeff Kent as an Astro. Those were good times. So how do we measure success over the next couple of days? I still think the Astros are more than capable of taking 2 or 3 from Atlanta with the way the pitching looks. And if the offense that the Astros have been running out there stays, I mean, they have scored 8 runs in 3 straight games, which means they've not reached the 10-run penalty that we're normally seeing. So guys, how do y'all measure success for this series coming up? Tim, we'll start with you.
I mean, you want to get as many games back, but I think in this series and the series to come, until we have, healthy starts happening with these players on the IL, I think the best thing to do is you just got to hold it together. Just holding it together with morale in the bullpen or in the clubhouse, everything, just keeping it together. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to see 2 out of 3. Heck yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? But we can get a game out of there. I think we're okay. Let's just get a game.
Brian, what about you? What do you see realistically as a possible outcome for this? And I don't say this just because my friend often looks for parlays and he comes to me first.
Mm-hmm. I mean, 2 or 3 is certainly a possibility because, again, the offense is good in general and hitting very well. Obviously, sort of the bigger sort of issue is, can they get anything useful out of the starting pitching over the next 3 days? It's like their 6th, 8th, and 9th best starters. And they didn't do real well. These 3 guys didn't do real well against the Orioles. This is a better offensive team. On the other hand, they should do better. They should do better than that and sort of fight them and give them a chance. They don't have to go, they don't have to give quality starts necessarily, but keep them in the ball game. Let the offense do some things because, as you pointed out, James, the Braves pitching is vulnerable.
Yeah, it's pretty vulnerable. And one of the things that's surprising me is, again, standings are way too early, but like if you go look at the AL Central, that looks to be top to bottom, obviously 2.5 weeks into the season, the strongest division in the American League with 3 teams that already have 9 wins. I guess AL East has that as well, but it's just kind of interesting to see
that is so before Memorial Day.
I know. But I'm kind of excited for the Fighting AJ Hinches to maybe take 2 or 3 from the Rangers again. From the Rangers. No?
Go AJ, do us a favor again.
Do us a favor.
Yeah.
All right. So that's going to wrap us up. Real quick, we'll get a final thought from everyone on what we think from the season or what we're looking for Astros-wise. And Tim, we will start with you.
I think it's just holding it together until they come, till the cavalry comes. But I think it's a rough start, but it is a start, right? And that's the thing. It's just the beginning. It is still April. No panic buttons are in sight. Let's watch some baseball.
So Tim wants to take the Travis Tritz, help me hold on to what we've had approach to the season. That's a deep pull, by the way. Brian, I don't even know if I have a final thought after that. Brian, what about you? Final thought?
Yeah, just one sort of different thought here. Yander Diaz has played like every day but one this season. He really is an everyday player, as sort of indicated in the offseason, and it's working out.
Yeah, it's you know what and my final thought is what a great signing of Carantini too, because he has been super clutch. Yeah. He has done everything they've asked for, and it's kind of nice to be able to have Diaz stay in the lineup at DH, knowing you have a functional catcher back there.
It's an extra $2 million spent. So talked about cheapness before, right? But it's an extra $2 million spent to get Caratini over the glove first backups. And it was an indication to me, one, they were going to go over the cap. They weren't going to sort of, save every dollar. And also has been productive because unlike the average backup catcher, he can hit some.
Yeah. All right. Well, my final thought is going to be this. If you're on social media and you're going to complain about Joe Espada, quit calling him the coach. That wraps up Go Astros. We will see you all next Monday. Tim, thanks for stepping in. We'll look forward to having you back on this season. Everybody else, go Stros.
Go Stros.